Happy Father's Day to all
Happy
of you
Father's Day,
guys out
everyone.
there. How you doing there, Soder?
I had a good relaxing day. I had a nice ribeye steak with some fresh potato, well, not fresh potato salad, a couple days old, which is the best
Yeah?
that the missus made by herself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, is it more mustard based or more mayonnaise based?
I would say it was more on the blandy side, but that's could use a bit more salt. But it was right up my
Oh my God. You don't say stuff like that on national
alley.
on a national syndicated show,
Well, good thing we're not on a national syndicated show.
but it could be one
No,
day.
well, that's not today.
Well, your wife might be watching.
Well, I am Swede, so we have
Oh,
bland taste palates.
okay.
Ketchup
Well,
is a bit spicy for us.
this is true. This is true. It's pretty sad.
You remember my face when when I was having those lemon pepper wings the other day.
Yeah.
Those were pretty spicy.
Yeah. Black pepper is woof. Yeah, for you guys. Well, to all you fathers out there, happy Father's Day to you. This is the one day that we have. Hopefully, you didn't have to slave too hard over the grill today. I'm not quite sure, so I haven't figured out why it is that on Mother's Day it takes 3 hours to get into any restaurant in America, but on Father's Day we're expected to grill out. Um,
I don't like crowds. Why would we
perhaps,
want to be around crowds? Women will
perhaps.
want to
Well,
show
I
off.
say the women should do all the grilling on Father's Day, dang it.
uh,
So,
uh,
they can do it. They can do
okay,
it.
okay.
Women can do everything. What do single moms do? You telling
Probably
me that
not grill.
75% of black American children have never had barbecue at home?
Probably not.
We're gonna leave that alone. But hey, happy Father's Day to all of you guys out there. And welcome to Out of the Darkness. I am your host Q, and as if you guys haven't figured out, that is Soder sitting directly across from me in the studio in the bunker here in sunny Wilmer, Minnesota. So great to have you guys on. And we've got more that are coming in. So welcome to the show. We got a great show. We've got a great show. I mean, I don't think I've ever said that we've had a bad show. But
We've had shows.
we've had some shows.
Had
They're
shows.
all good shows, just some are better than others. So, this is the Sandy Beach 42 studio, right?
Well,
That's
it is your.
we so this is the Sandy Beach 42 studio. So
It's the hired.
well, he's the field hand. He's the sharecropper, if you will, extraordinaire. So
I
thank you
didn't even
so
know it
much.
was a sharecropper.
It is.
Where's
It
my
is.
mule?
Well, how back? You got to go rope them yourself. But but yeah. So Father's Day, we're excited to have Tim Miller on his way in. Of course, he's late. What else would you expect from a politician? So
All right.
but he will be here. I tell you what, when guys have to work real jobs, it's a rough deal, right?
Yeah, only Sundays right now, unless we get that Patreon really high up there.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. So, but one other thing I gotta get off my chest was, while people are coming in, I saw something yesterday, last night, that made me incredibly sick. I sent
Someone was not eating buffalo wings.
I s- I sent that video to you.
Oh, that one.
Um,
Okay. Yeah, that was
And
disturbing.
if you guys haven't seen this, we're gonna put the link in the description in the bottom of this video, at the bottom of this stream. Yeah, I'm sure most of you guys are aware of what happened, but essentially, as I've realized in Arizona, there was a family went into Family Dollar, and their 4-year-old girl, little girl, she stole a doll. Okay, somehow they were rushing. She got the doll. They didn't realize it. Um, I'm not sure exactly how that happened. I'm not advocating for anyone to steal. I've been on this show long enough. You guys have heard enough of my personal feelings, enough of my governing. Um, uh, uh, I don't know what you would call it. My personal. You know what I believe in. You know what I stand for. Okay. Um, at the end of the day, guys, I feel that people should always respect other people's property. So I'm not standing and saying this child should be stealing, but she's 4. Okay. He's 4. It's sickening to me that this 4-year-old stole something. And I think if we all be honest, I know when I was about that age, I took something out of the store, a piece of candy that I shouldn't have. I know that I shouldn't have. My parents made me take it back when they figured it out and embarrassed me. But you know what? Since then, I've never taken anything without permission. Okay.
Yep.
It was it was a learning lesson. But somehow, some reason, they had something like 8 or 9, 10 cops, whatever it was, that held this family at gunpoint, yelling and screaming obscenities, yanking them out of their vehicle, throwing them to the ground, and treating them like first-class criminals because their daughter took a doll, okay, at 4 years old. Now, Soder, tell me this. Now, I'm not going down this road, and so I understand there's people from all over different walks of life. Okay, now this family was a black family, and it seems like that seems to be what we see mostly on the interwebs and these videos that go viral are black families. Now, I think that a lot of that has to do with there's a certain narrative being pushed. So, for lack of killing the argument and killing the discussion, we will forget about the fact that they were black for right now. Okay. And for right now, we were only going to discuss the fact that the police in this country have been militarized and they have been given a green light to go out and mistreat the people who are responsible for paying their wages. At the end of the day, the police force works for us. If I'm wrong, Soder, please tell me where I'm wrong.
That's the idea.
But
I don't think they really do that.
But they are supposed to be public servants. I mean, the level of disrespect, the obscenities being thrown at this family, the traumatization that was projected on these children. How do you feel that these children are going to view cops the rest of their life?
With a very suspicious.
Extremely suspicious. We're not going to go into talking about the fact that their race or their ethnicity. That is secondary to the fact that these police officers, every last one of them should be fired. Every last one of them should be fired. And if you don't think they should, let's have a discussion about that. But I'm going to tell you where I stand. They should all be fired. Right now, we are looking at a situation in America where we have a military officer, I don't know, he's an officer, a soldier, who shot and killed what he thought was a combatant, an unarmed combatant. And his life is being ruined. His family's life is being ruined because he made a very quick decision, and he is essentially being held responsible for killing this man. Okay. Now I'm gonna say I've never spent any time in the military, so I'm not gonna pretend to know things that I don't know. But what I will say is that being in a war theater is much different than being in Arizona.
Don't you know?
Being in a high stress fighting situation, as a lot of our soldiers are, is much different. And if we're expecting our soldiers to have the presence of mind to not shoot people who are unarmed, to not pull guns on people that are unarmed, to not mistreat people who are unarmed, how can we then expect that the police are going to be held to a different standard? This is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm looking here. This is the definitely went overboard, but I heard the parents had warrants or suspended driver's license is why they went in hot like that. Strange. I do not give a rat's ass what kind of warrants they had. There were babies in that car. There was no reason for them to speak to them like that, for one thing. Dropping F-bombs. These are supposed to be professionals. And got cracked for me. Hey, look, this isn't against you. I'm not sure what kind of warrants they had or any of that. I do not know. And suspended driver's license, I'm sorry. A suspended driver's license does not warrant pulling a gun on people. It just does not. And for them to be thrown to the ground and be told, I watched the officer attempt to yank the baby from her mother's arms.
Yeah, she's a poor parent, so they need to take the kid away.
You don't do that. You do not do that. And I appreciate the good police officers. I know there are some good ones. I totally get that. But the fact that they are not being held responsible, if I do something egregious like this at my job, I will be fired. And I expect that when police officers act egregiously, that they be fired, not internally reviewed and investigated by other officers in their fraternal order of police with full pay and benefits and then reassigned. This is a farce. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I guarantee you, for any of you out there, if it were your family or your kids, you would not stand for it. And I'm not, just because it's not my family, and just because I don't know them personally. After seeing that video, I'm sick to my stomach. Now, if you have, where do you fall on this, Soder?
It's very similar, if not the same. I would like cops not to draw their guns a lot more. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
I understand
Like
what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It's when we see things like this, the cops, for whatever reason, I don't know why they've done it. Maybe they had a bad day, or maybe they're just truly bad cops. But the fact that they seem to act with this idea that shiny badges give them special powers, they don't. I mean, to a small degree they do, but they don't. They're still held to a lot of standards that we as private citizens have or are expected to act like. But when something like that, if I were to pull my gun on someone in public, the ones that I have at the bottom of the lake, I would be brought to jail. The judge would throw the book at me, and my whole life would be ruined.
Sure.
But when this happens, it's like, oh well, streets are a war. Officers could die at any moment. We want to get them home at the ends of their shifts to their families. Blah 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 blah. Well, don't be a cop.
This whole idea, this narrative that, oh, the police, they have such a dangerous job and this and that. You know what? Look, I've been the first one to come on here and say we are not going to turn, every time a black person gets shot by the police, we are not going to turn into a race issue. I will call it a over policing issue. The only time that black people want to talk about the fact that we are only 13% of the population is when we want to talk about the fact that black people are shot at a higher rate or have a higher interaction rate with the police than our white counterparts. And we're only 13% of the population. Yes, we are. But no one ever wants to talk about the fact that, yes, we have a higher interaction rate with the police, because black people as a whole commit a lot more crime. Let's just call it what it is. Now, there are reasons for that, and we've talked about that. Part of that is the fact that 75% of young black Americans are born into single parent households. They are born to single mothers who are probably working 2-3 jobs to feed them and to help take care of them. And so they're essentially raising themselves, are being raised by someone very irresponsible. They do not have a parent's presence or a father's presence in the home. That does not bode well for having respectful citizenry. Call it what it is. So I understand that we have issues crime-wise. I understand that we are not that we are committing a much larger proportion of crimes to our actual to the percentage that we actually represent in the United States. I totally understand that. Again, I am not going to turn this into a race argument. It's not a race argument. I really could not care less what color the people were in that video. I really do not care. I could have read it without seeing the video, and that still would have been egregious. I was even more egregious. I had read about it before I had actually seen the video, and once I saw the video, I was outraged. Again, it had nothing to do with the color of the people who were being treated that way, but it had everything to do with the fact that we have a situation in the United States where we have officers who are getting away with these types of things and they are keeping their job. And if we're going to look at facts and not operate based on our feelings, the police do not have any more dangerous of a job than farmers and pilots. Let's be very honest. That does not give them the right to go out and treat the citizenry in the way that we have seen them treat the citizenry. I'm going to get off of this. Happy Father's Day. We finally have
Our third absent father.
our third absent father, Mr. Tim Miller. I feel like that doesn't quite do you justice, sir, to call you Mr. I mean, I call everybody Mr. I mean, should it be?
Asta?
No, we're not gonna go.
Wow.
We're not
I'm
gonna go
walking into
there.
the hot zone tonight.
No, we'll call you Sir Timothy. We'll put the Sir first. We'll say Sir Timothy Miller,
Yeah, because
Esquire.
look at me. I just look like royalty, don't I?
It's just gleaming. You have gotten some sun though.
I have. I was up at the lake kayaking today.
Okay, well, it was
obviously
a good
not
day for it.
Genteel.
Good day.
Yeah,
It was
a
my
good.
Father's Day. We went out kayaking for a while today. It was great.
Well, very good. Did you get a chance to go kayaking with the children?
So it was my wife and with my youngest son. He wasn't out kayaking. We went up to a friend's lake house. They literally have a farmhouse on a lake, and they own a bunch of property out there. So we jumped in the kayaks and spent some time out in a nice. Now, us here in Minnesota, we have lots of lakes, and some of them are highly populated. Some of them not so much. The lake we were on was not so much. It was beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was
Fantastic.
great.
I thought it was going to be cold and
It was
rainy,
beautiful.
but it was about a perfect day.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Very nice.
ended up being what 73, 74 degrees.
I have absolutely no idea.
So I know we're moving on to the next subject, but I do want to jump in with just two quick comments on what you previously talked about.
Sure, absolutely.
Number one, you when I sat down, you brought up the perfect point. When you have a police officer resorting to an F-bomb, then they've stepped over a line, they've stepped outside their professionalism, and something needs to be done with that. A topic for the future. I always sit here and talk about the topics for the future. It seems like, well, hey, we should talk about that.
And then we just have another week
But
of
a
content.
lot of the difficulties that we have in doing rational things when it comes to people that are in positions of authority, especially with government, is the problem with public unions.
Right.
Okay. There is a role for them. There is a role. I am a supporter of private unions. Okay. The trades, things like that. The problem that I have with the public unions is the union and their power, especially here in Minnesota, supersede rational thinking. And you not only have people that keep their jobs when they shouldn't. I could give you examples of where people have lost their jobs when they should have not, because the system explodes way beyond. It comes down to what the contract says, what attorneys will say, and what you can win in the battle, not what the actual tenets of the situation is. And so you have people. You hear the stories often about people that are incompetent or have done something that have crossed the line and they don't lose their jobs. That's certainly true. I can give you stories where they've lost them and they shouldn't have either. And again, I have no problem with people's right to collectively bargain, but here in Minnesota, the public unions have way too much power.
Sure.
And the leadership, and it causes problems like this. Now, this wasn't in Minnesota, correct?
No. This
Okay.
was, but
this
we've
is the
had
sort of
we've
thing
had
that you
issues
see.
in Minnesota with police going overboard. I think of the Philando Castillo situation immediately, and then the next is the officer Noor shooting that young lady from Australia,
Well,
which
to
was
be fair to him, everything from Australia can kill you.
Well, and so, well, you're Mr. Sarcasm tonight.
I am
So
full of it.
one of the issues that you get done with some of these cop shootings and stuff like that is in today's society, with especially with the ability to get online and make comments, is everything represents something larger than itself, which sometimes it does. But oftentimes you need to look at the specific case and say, this is what it is.
Sure.
If there's something broader than that needs to be addressed, you certainly can do that. But we're quick. Hope you agree with me that we're quick to extrapolate and say, this is what's wrong with society. And you run down a road of a lot of different things that may not actually be the case there. So in the case of Officer Noor, people that are watching that don't know that, there was a woman who came running out from an apartment building and ran up to the driver's side of the police car. The passenger police officer reached across the driver and shot her dead.
Right.
And thought that she was coming to attack. Now, what adds a little bit to it is she was a white woman from Australia, and he was an African American cop from Eastern Africa, which has a little bit.
He was
of
an African cop. He wasn't American.
Yeah, so African cop. It's again, he was Somalian, right?
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
So we have a little bit of an extra here in Minnesota right now. We have a little bit of extra juice on that too. But ostensibly, you had a cop who probably failed at their job. It isn't because he was Somali. It wasn't because she was white. There may have been factors that were included in there, but my point being is that sometimes what happened is what happened, nothing beyond
Sure.
that.
And I get that. I do get that. Again, I'm always very, very careful to not turn these types of situations into a race related issue. But you bring up a very good point, Sir Timothy.
I think speaking of stereotypes, I'm looking at myself, and I have only my sunglasses with me. When I was breezing over here, I left my other glasses. So without glasses, my bald head that was newly cut this last week, clean shaven, in a black T-shirt. I'm going to talk about someone that looks like, I don't know what I look like. I look like a bad guy on Breaking Bad or something. I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter. I'm not in true life like that, but I'm just looking at myself and I'm like, man.
Or the hero from the Die Hard films.
No. Bruce Willis?
Yeah. Why not?
You know what? Hey,
all right, I'll take it.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna say you should see some of the things that he's called me. So if you get Bruce Willis out of the deal,
I'll take
it and run with it. So yeah, chalk that up as a win. But yeah, so again, I always try to err on the side of looking at, we're all Americans. Okay, at the end of the day, until we get to the point, one of the issues that I've had, and this is not our topic, but it just happened. One of the issues that I've had with Black Lives Matter, for example, is that I feel that Black Lives Matter has done a very poor job of including all Americans. I feel that they've attempted to create a subculture, right? And say, well, these lives matter, and this is specifically for us. I mean, let's look at the fact that, unfortunately, a lot of people are killed. Innocent people are killed by police officers. If you add all of the races into it, I mean, last year there was 250 some odd white people killed by police, unarmed white people killed by the police last year. Okay, there was far fewer blacks and Hispanics that were killed by the police last year. Now, forget the color of their skin, all right? But let's look at those numbers. Can you name me one white person that was killed by the police last year? Without Googling. Probably not, right? Because like you said, as soon as something comes out, everything is being rushed to be politicized. Everybody is trying to put their own spin on it.
And what happens is things have to feed the narrative. This is where the media comes in. That's a challenge. But us as a society, we like things that feed the narrative. And it can be on good things too. You know, if you hear a great story, you make it bigger than what it is, a great sports story or something like that. But everything has to feed the narrative. And the problem is that when there's stories that don't feed the narrative, they get ignored. So like, what is it, about 3-4 weeks ago, there was a school shooting. Maybe it was about a month. I lose track of time at the end of the session. But there was a school shooting, and there was that one kid who basically went in and literally losing his life. He laid down his life for his brothers and stopped the assault cold in its tracks, but he died in the process. Now, that's a pretty major thing for a high school student to do. That should be the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything reported, should be about this kid
Right.
and what they did.
A true hero.
True hero,
Sure.
and almost nothing was reported.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not personally offended because of it, but that tells me something.
Sure.
Okay, that should have been you had a kid who was, in the truest sense, we're quick to call people heroes for different things. The kid was literally a hero. That should have been the story for the next 2 weeks. Background on who he was, where he came from, what his parents are like, what he wanted to do in the future. You know how they exhaust every story in every other situation.
Right.
He was an afterthought that only on social media were people saying, "Hey, you should see what this kid did."
Just a blurb.
Now, my point in that is again, I'm not offended that he wasn't talked about, but it didn't fit the narrative.
Sure.
And that's why it wasn't talked about. And that's an issue that I know that when I'm called and I'm interviewed for a piece, they pretty much tell you in media training. I have taken some media training that they might talk to you for 15 minutes, but they're looking for the 1 or 2 sentences that fit within their story,
Right.
within their narrative, if you will,
Sure.
not what it is you're actually saying.
Sure.
And that's a disappointment, and that's a challenge.
And that's extremely sad. But I think of how much more powerful an organization like BLM could be if the focus was liberty. If the focus was, we are not going to continue to allow over policing. We're not going to continue to allow um, we're not going to continue to have our officers um, act rogue. We're not going to continue to allow. We're going to hold them accountable. Again, there are good police officers out there, and we appreciate those. Um, if this is your first time watching the show, I feel like I need to say that because you might not know what we stand for here. But for those of you that are regulars here that have been on the show before, I don't have to explain that. You know where I stand and the respect that I have for law-abiding officers. But again, they're up there. They're there to uphold the law, not to be the law, and not to enforce their own version of the law.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
not
You know, if there's a police officer that's in a truly, their beat is a very dangerous part of whatever city.
right.
Fill in the blank, okay?
Sure.
And there's a lot of stress. They've seen a lot of things. They've seen a whole lot of horrible things. Let's just say they snap, whatever that means, okay? You deal with that. But I tend to agree with you also. Again, I came in when you were kind of saying, listen, they're chose to be police officers. They're trained to be police officers. They don't train police. I watched that video. They do not train police officers to behave in the way that those cops behave.
No.
That was out of line. I don't care what they went in with it supposing. If you are the police officers are supposed to be the people that are in control of the situation. They might have to grab control. They might have to regain it. They may have to produce it. But there was nothing that those police officers that were doing that were creating control of the situation.
Sure.
That was inflammatory, and it does take. Unfortunately, things take time. So I don't. When did that video happen?
That was the 29th of May.
29th of May, so relatively recent.
Relatively recent.
And are they like suspended with pay now? I don't even know what the story is.
The last I heard, they were doing an internal investigation.
Right, but they're probably suspended with pay. Would be my guess.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the way of the union, right?
Right, and that's and that's okay. I mean, that's part of the process. These things sometimes they do need, because it's so inflammatory, they need to get it done right the first time. So, and what town was this in?
This was in a
Smaller
suburb
town,
of,
right?
It was in Arizona. I want
Oh,
to
that's
say.
right.
Yeah.
It said Phoenix cops, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're in
Right.
Phoenix. That's right. That's right. Okay, so if it's Phoenix, then they have more resources than if they're in a smaller town.
Sure.
They'll take a little bit of time, but that we're hoping that they come back and they deal with this accordingly. Those police officers stepped a major line. Now, at the risk of causing trouble for myself, we're always quick to say everyone's fired, right? Now, maybe that is egregious enough to be terminated. Don't get me wrong. But no matter what you do these days, it's grounds for termination. You could say the wrong word, let it slip out, grounds for termination. There are times where there are other things, okay? I'm not trying to let these officers off the hook saying that they shouldn't be terminated, but these are things that have to be investigated. But certainly, as you said to begin with, what we saw in that video, I'm not even assuming there might be something else that mitigates it. That is so crossed the line. Like I said, when you drop an F-bomb on a citizen as a cop
multiple F-bombs.
multiple times,
Sure.
but when you go there, there's no doubt about it. I don't care where the line is, you cross that line.
Sure.
And that's not acceptable.
And the problem is that we see so many of these, and now the officers, I did read that they are issued body cams, but all the officers' body cams were shut off.
Well, there's rules of that. So here in Minnesota, we passed body cam language. It actually is kind of difficult. You think hands-free legislation is tough? Destroy body cam. So there are times at which the body cams are turned on and turned off, and I couldn't go into it now because I don't remember, but each state will have a little bit different laws. There are times in which they come upon a situation the cameras may not be turned on. I mean, maybe they should be, but
doesn't that defeat the purpose of body cams, though?
Yeah, but there's times. So when you walk into one of the arguments against body cams when we were trying to pass it in the state of Minnesota is when the body cam is walking into your house, and let's say they come in for a domestic assault, okay? And they walk in with the body cams on. And when they come in with that body cam, and that body cam sees something sitting over on the table, it's not legal. Can they prosecute for what they found on the table? It's on camera. They can see it, but that's not what they're there for. So you just have to decide. And I think in Minnesota we decided they have to be turned on. But there are times
whether they see it or whether it's filmed, it's there. I'm not now. I agree. If someone comes, so this is a story that happened to me in our county. Okay. I am in, and I think I told you about this the other day. I am in my restroom. It's about 10 o'clock at night. I have a special needs son, and so therefore we had chimes and a system put on our home so that anytime a door is opened, it lets us know that the door has been opened and which door has been opened.
Right.
Okay. Because for fear that our son would, walk out of the house in the middle of the night or whatnot. I mean, bottom line is for protection for our children. I'm in my restroom and I hear my dogs barking. It's strange because we live out in the middle of nowhere. Our dogs don't bark unless someone is approaching, right? So clearly someone's approaching. It can't be anyone in our family because our dogs don't bark. They know our vehicles. They don't bark if it's someone in our family, right? So that's the first concern. The next concern is that I hear the chime lady say, "Front door open." That's strange. I know my wife is in the other restroom showering. My children are supposed to be in bed. It's 10 o'clock at night. It's a school night. So I come out of the restroom with my hand on my pistol.
Yep.
For concern.
Yep.
And it's a sheriff's deputy standing in my front in my home.
They opened the door and came in.
Opened the door, came in.
Wow.
Okay. So she's standing.
They violated the nap.
She's standing there in my front doorway. I said, "What are you doing here, and why are you in my home?" She says, "Oh, I'm looking for," and she mentions my mother-in-law's name. She doesn't live here, but that doesn't explain why are you in my home.
Yeah.
She says, "Well, I was concerned about the dogs, so I thought it was safer to be in here." No, it's really not safer to be in here. This could have been a really bad situation.
You had no reason to step into your home.
But you had no right to walk into my home unannounced. She didn't say, "This is Officer so-and-so, hello," any of that, none of that. She just walked into my home. And so when you see those types of situations play out, right, going back to your body cam situation, right, now I could see that if she walked into my home and there was something that was sitting there that was unlawful, that could be a concern. But in a situation like that, it's not admissible, no matter what you saw. It's not admissible as evidence because she walked into my home.
All I'm saying is, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying
I understand.
Determining when they're turned on, because I know rationally say, well, you have them. Why aren't they just turned on all the time? there are times where they turn them on and turn them off, and it's been about a year and a half. So forgive me, I'm kind of forgetting the tenets, but there was legitimate discussions. My point being is in that situation there, from what we saw in the video, if they have body cams, they should be turned on. I didn't see any situation why they would not be turned on. Now, they may have literally just forgotten. They may have chosen not to have them turned on, which would probably be breaking protocol. One of the challenges they have that we also discussed is what happens when a police officer just literally forgets to turn it on. Are they in trouble? Some of those discussions. I don't know with this one, but you're saying that they didn't have them on.
They
right?
didn't have them on.
And they should have been
there were almost a dozen officers there. None of them had them
None of them had it on.
on. But fortunately, there was a citizen who was there, and
Yeah.
I get annoyed by some of those guys who seem to want to get a rise out of the police officers. I could see Soder being one of those guys. You know, just a Nick Rekieta type who's just there, just to get under the officer's skin. I could totally see Soder pulling something like that.
Where's your warrant, officer?
Yeah, where's your warrant? I know my rights. I'm part of the press. I'm exercising my First Amendment right. But I tie all this in. I know you guys are trying to figure out how we tie this into our topic for the day. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't feel it's a stretch. I have broken away from the modern day conservative party, okay? Because of this. We've come to a place where Blue Lives Matter, all of that stuff,
I hate those.
and we've gotten to that place where the officer's always right. I don't care if he's beating you. You just take it and then go and fight it in court later and all of that. I get sick
Practical
of that.
advice.
Just do whatever he tells you to do and then go and fight it later. You know what? No. That's how liberties disappear. No. We're going to fight for our liberties, and whatever happens, happens. So I break from the party in those situations. And Tim, we might disagree on this, but that's okay.
On that point?
No. On what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So I'm.
Do you disagree on that point though? Just for the record.
For the record.
Yeah, you're on you're on the record right now, Tim.
So
and let me before you answer that, in all fairness, the reason why I'm talking about this is that this is a pro-life issue, right? If we're pro-life and we care about life, that does not end in the womb.
Right.
That is pro-life as it pertains to I am for life across the board. I am but
a natural born death.
No. And so I am pro-life in that situation. Everyone has the right to live. But the problem with this is I feel like this whole idea of pro-choice, God, that is super, super slimy. I hate when they hijack our terms. I really do. Because I would say I'm more pro-choice. Pro-choice in the situation that I believe that everyone should have a choice. I believe that the mother should have a choice on what she does with her body. I believe that the baby should also have a choice. But until such time as the baby has a choice, we have to protect that baby's right. Right? That's what I feel.
Okay, I'm so glad you went there. I was wondering where that was going.
That's where that was going. Because you say natural born death. I personally feel that if a person feels that their quality of life is no longer there, and they feel as though they have reached a place where they are terminally ill, they are going to pass away, they have nothing to look forward to but pain, that person should have the right to end their life in a dignified manner. I feel that is my argument. I feel that person has the right, because it is their life, it is their body, it is their choice. They should have the right to end their life in a dignified fashion as opposed to suffer in pain and to suffer without dignity. I feel free to.
So I thought we knew we were going to talk about this week. So I've done some thinking over this past week and thought about, where the lines, because I knew where these different conversations were going to go. It actually said when you are, because you're pro-life, you also stand for, this is the way you said it, doctor-assisted suicide. And my first reaction was like, huh? And so I thought, well, no, he meant what he said, so I'm going to connect the dots. And I think I connected the dots. What you just said endorses that. I think I understood what it is that you're saying. What you said right there is everyone has a right to, how did you say it? Right to choose what they do with their life.
What
That's
they
what
do
you
with their
said?
own body and
What they do with their own body. So where I disagree, and I think where I disagree, we agree on one thing, and let's make this one point when it comes to the abortion debate, okay? What we agree is that fetus, that organism, that bunch of cells that actually have fingers and brain waves and stuff like that. But it's a baby inside
Right.
in utero baby. Okay, so
Sure.
you and I agree on that.
We agree
And
on that.
so where I think we disagree is the line that's drawn from there. And I don't disagree with what you're saying fundamentally, but there's lines that we draw in society, and I think the debate that we are having in society is in some good and some bad, because I can give you some examples where I make myself a hypocrite in this. But the question is raised: is there a higher order for a society to do certain things and not do certain other things? For the propagation of life, for the propagation of a healthy society, for a nation, whatever. It can kind of break down into different little things there and stuff like that. And I think that's fundamentally where you and I don't know if I made sense, so we may have to kind of take this from a couple different angles. But I think that's the fundamental point where you and I differentiate. Okay?
Sure.
So let me give you an example of where we might differentiate on a different subject. This is hot topic, but this is so yesterday's news. 2012 called. They want this story back. But same-sex marriage. Okay? So same-sex marriage, from my libertarian friends, I kind of heard, listen, we shouldn't even have a government contract on marriage.
Amen.
Okay? Right. No, that's what I heard.
Amen.
And because of that, it isn't a matter of whether same-sex marriage is right or wrong. Government should keep their hands out of it. That's what
Amen.
I've heard. Okay, so I'm on the right point. Now, for
You agree with
me,
that, don't you, Soder?
let me tell you where I veer.
Let's let him finish.
Okay, let me tell you where I veer off. He's going to pick a middle ground here.
He is. He's such a politician.
Weak. I wonder why he called him Soder. If he gave his real name, people would hunt him down and beat him up for being so
Probably.
Feckless.
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 Can that be his new nickname?
Feckless. We're going to call you Feckless.
I'll change my Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Wow. But anyway, so here is my issue, okay? And where I get it, it's a lot more esoteric, mind you, but I'm here. So I hope I make sense here, okay? I believe society has benefits to procreation, okay? Meaning we need to have children. We need to have more children than who we are. One of the problems with some of the countries in Europe, we're getting here with the United States, in China where they only have boys and stuff like that is society can't advance if you don't have more kids than what exists now. You have to grow society. If you have, like, if a husband and wife have 2 kids and that's it, you end up with negative population growth. You have to be I think positive population growth starts at like 2.4 kids average or something like that.
I'll sign up for the 0.4.
Okay. So there you go. So anyway,
more than 2, less than 3.
So now follow me. I'm using on the same-sex marriage again, but I'll transfer it over to here now. But I want to use this example because it's a little more clear here. Okay. The reason why I am against same-sex marriage personally is my personal faith. Okay. That doesn't go real far, and anyone that's watching this now is like, how on earth did he? So he's going to throw his religion on me, that dirty dog, and stuff like that. So I'm willing to step away from that and say, well, and this actually still is with my faith, but I'll pull it aside. I'll separate it out here. If society is to procreate, how are 2 men going to procreate? So if there is benefits, the reason why we give like tax write-offs for being married, for having kids, for these different things is because society views them as benefits to the broader sense of society. So they say marriage has certain benefits that not being married doesn't have. That's the way that I look at it. That's why there's tax credits, for example. That's why there is certain property rights and things like that associated. The different subject matter that people are saying, we want to be same-sex married, but if they pass away, I have to fight like heck to get have my kids stay with me or whatever. All those different arguments. Okay, I see a benefit to society in man-woman marriage. Okay, So I think that there should be benefits, and you'll see my legislation, whether it be with daycare or other things that's with that. Now, getting back to the life issue, where you and I disagree, okay? I agree that there is a statement that we should have a right to do what we want with our own bodies, and that baby is his own, so they should have a right to decide, okay?
Hey, wait. Hold on. Before you just rush over this whole this in before you go there,
Okay.
you hit a vein. You hit a vein
Right,
when
like a gold vein or an arm
No.
vein.
what's about to come out of my mouth is straight gold.
His nerve,
right?
his left nerve. Go
This
ahead.
is straight platinum. Take
Okay.
us to the bank.
Go ahead.
Okay. So yes, I agree with as far as my faith goes. As far as my faith goes, yes, I agree that marriage is a man and a woman. No arguments here.
Right.
But the Bible, if we're going to go there, and bear with me, people, the Bible states that render under Caesar what is Caesar's, and under God what is God's. Even the Bible makes a differentiation between the rule of man and the rule of, yes, it does. We are not living under a theocracy. Even the now, let me, at the point that we are asked to violate our conscience, that becomes an issue. I understand that. But it is not the government's right to determine who can be married and who could not be married. Period. Point blank. And I know that some people and some of my Republican friends have said, well, you're just being feckless. You're not being willing to take a stand on something. My personal feelings on something, if we wanted to have a discussion and run the government based on my personal feelings, my personal faith, everyone would hate me. Everyone would hate me. Okay? Because my own personal feelings, my own personal faith are much different than what I believe is political and what is proper political procedure. So I get where you're coming from, and I don't think we, on a personal level, we can agree. But on a political level, talking about what we feel that the government has the right to require of its people and what the government has the right to insert itself into, those are totally different situations.
But
So
see, I don't think it's a government right. What I'm saying is, because I actually had to press with the same-sex thing, I had to dig deep and say, am I just bothered by this, or what exactly is truth, what is not truth, where am I being a hypocrite, not a hypocrite, and stuff like that. So I did quite a bit of thinking. I'm not saying the government has a right or should effectuate something when it comes to marriage to a public union. I mean, to not a public union, a union between two people. What I'm saying is that there is a benefit to society with man and woman raising a child the right way. So I could see where they do that. I can actually agree with you that maybe government needs to step away. Okay. However, if they're going to step away, then they shouldn't be sanctioning same-sex marriage either. You're either going to step away or you're going to engage. Okay?
well, my argument is that they step away completely. My
I actually
argument.
came to the conclusion that either do that, or I was trying to write the word because I forget what it's called, but you have marriage and then you have,
I'm just
what's it
remembering
called?
our conversation.
What was the
Right.
legal term? There's kind of a watered down version, something union. What is that called?
Civil union?
Civil union.
Yeah.
Okay. I was willing to go there because one of the things as a Christian man about marriage is that maybe worldwide, but certainly here in the United States, marriage has become about the contractual agreement. How do we know that? Because everything's really about divorce, right? It isn't what you go into, it's what you get out of. And it's about all the legal rights that you have when you exit out of it. We certainly have a lot of divorce in the United States. I'm personally divorced, lest I be a hypocrite, okay? But so the government sanctioning of marriage is about that contract,
Sure.
even though I view marriage as something different as a Christian man. So I was willing to do the compromise and say, I'll tell you what, let's have marriage, let's have civil union. If they want the legal rights of what marriage is, you bet, call it civil union. I don't care if you call all. Like my wife and I said our vows, we signed a marriage certificate that the state now has or the county has, okay, or both. Okay. If we're gonna do that, you can call it all civil union. I don't care. Because you're right. If we are going to diminish marriage which I think is a holy thing before God, if we're going to diminish it to the contract of what you can and can't do within that union, then I agree with you. Just call it civil union.
Well,
So you're right. I think you and I actually do agree to a great deal on that issue.
that's a dangerous slope, though, Tim, because if you're free to love who you love and you're free to be with who you will and express your love however you feel, how then can you discriminate against polygamy?
Oh, no, I know that. And that's one of the issues that I have because this whole that you're free to love who you love. Okay. But what does that mean? What does that mean legally? What does that mean for society? Because you're right. I actually felt that there was a more substantiated argument for polygamy than there was same-sex marriage. And there are people who say, "Oh, you can definitely not have polygamy." Well, why not?
That's my issue.
I could argue polygamy before I could argue same-sex.
I could argue all of it. My argument is I feel like really and truly, if you're going to be 100% consistent, you have to be a libertarian.
And what's wrong? Oh.
I'm serious. If you're going to be 100% consistent, you have to be a libertarian. Because a libertarian,
that was my favorite line for like the next month.
You have to be. Because to be a libertarian is to say that you're going to choose liberty 100% of the time. And anything that does not violate the liberties of another is fair game.
Wow.
Anything
I
that
am
is
gonna
not
find hypocrisy in that. Time and just give me time and I'll point it out.
Well,
I need to have a little sign that I hold up that goes, hypocrite, hypocrite.
The arguments on this show are unbeatable. Try. Bottom line is, what does Michael O'Connor says? Marriage is of two people or things that are different but the same
The pure
purpose.
faith, libertarianism,
Hey,
the pure religion.
the bottom line is this: as long as you are not stepping on the liberties, the only time the government should have anything to do with it is if you are stepping in the liberties or the God-giving rights of someone else. If you are stepping on another person's liberties or their rights to live freely, then you should be punished. If not, they should have the right. It's cast for the friendly ghost to the government. So that's where I stand. So just remember that as you go to sleep tonight, you lay your head on your pillow. You know that if you are going to be consistent in all of your ways, you must register as a libertarian. So
coming 2020.
So come 2020, I expect to see you run. Are you up for re-election in 2020?
I will be, and I will be. I'll say it here. I totally intend on running next election.
Well,
cycle.
hey, you know what? So if I'm gonna be true to this, if I'm gonna be a true media personality, we are going to title this video, Tim Miller announces his bid for re-election for 2020.
Just let me get through this term, okay? No, I just looking forward. I can see me running one more time, but that is to sound like a true politician. That's a very personal decision that you have to mentally arrive at each and every election cycle.
Absolutely,
You have to assess things. Now, it might be a quick assessment. It might be a slow one, but you have to. When you are running for office, you need, mind you, some people don't.
Sure.
But it is really important that you say, you know what, I am going to run again, and you need to act in such a way that you're running again. I'm just projecting into the future, and I anticipate all things considered, I'm going to be running again.
Sure. And we appreciate that. You have been you have been one of our stronger candidates for liberty. We don't always agree.
Thank you.
But we agree a lot of the time. But I have a strong feeling that we are disagreeing here. Now, you were going to try this back to life. Now, so as one of our other friends here in this community will always do when talking about certain things, he will bring up his own personal story, and he will beat you over the head with it. And he will say, well, if you believe that, then you don't care about this. I'm going to do that to you. Why
Okay,
not?
sounds good.
So I have a good friend of mine who went out hunting. I'm an avid hunter, love to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
He went out hunting one night. He climbed up in his tree stand, and um, his wife, he's a dairy farmer. So as you know a lot of dairy farmers.
Yep.
As a dairy farmer, works late nights. So his wife had to take the kids out to go to a game. She did not ever really expect. Most nights they were not in the bed at the same time. So she got home late, 10 o'clock, got in bed, went to bed, fell asleep. No big deal. He had gone out hunting and had his brother do the evening chores. On his way out of his tree stand, he fell out of his stand and fell on his head, broke his neck. Late October, as you know, in Minnesota, especially northern Minnesota, late October it can be pretty cold. He laid there the entire night. The next morning, she woke up, realized he had never come to bed. She called his brother. What happened? He said, "Oh well, I did the chores. He should have been home. He went hunting. He should have been home at sundown." Said he never came home. So they went to his tree stand, and there he laid. Okay, because it was cold. He was still alive, very cold, very hypothermic. So for the last 5 years, this friend of mine has been completely paralyzed from the neck down. Okay, um, hates life, hates living in that situation. His children have to take care of him. His children have to bathe him. His wife has to bathe him. She has been phenomenal, phenomenal woman. Has stood by his side throughout this entire situation. But if he had passed away, there were stop gaps, or there were contingency plans in place to buy his part out with the life insurance policy that his brothers had taken out. Pretty big dairy farming operation. If he had passed away, they could have done that. Unfortunately, at this point, they're doing everything they can to. I mean, dairy farmers aren't rich. You know this. I mean,
Yep.
they work hard. They are asset rich and cash poor, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so if they get bought out,
Right now they're both poor, but go ahead. Yep.
right? But the problem there is that if they could buy his wife out, she would be able to. She'd be okay. She'd be in good shape. She'd be able to take care of the kids, but they can't buy her out. So essentially, they're still trying to pay his salary while paying someone else to pick up the slack for the work
Right.
that he would do. And I applaud his brothers for being so honorable in this situation. Um, my friend would love to be able to pass dignified in a dignified manner. He doesn't want his children wiping him. He doesn't want his children bathing him. He doesn't want his children feeding him. But that's the situation that he's in. I think that it is wrong. I would even go so far as to say it's immoral for us to look at that man and to say, absolutely not. You're going to sit there and you're going to suffer until you die of natural causes. But we are going to force you to live that life. You're not going to help you pass away in a dignified manner. Now, how is that? How is that right? I mean, from a, I'm sure you're going to bring up something from a social standpoint, or from some type of that. I mean, you
You're
do
actually
stand for
answering the question for me.
you stand for this form of totalitarianism that I
So
can't
now
quite get.
libertarians not only are always right, but they also know everything for everyone else also.
I just have you on here just
Wow.
be a nice guy. I know what you're going to say. I mean, we could have this show just me, and I could answer for you.
I
But
can just
but
move my mouth and you can answer for
but no, I mean, and this, like I said, this is a very good.
Wait.
good-
Before we go any further, how about you write down what then he says what you're going to say, and then I'll
I'm going to start using
reveal
your
it.
real name and where you live.
Why?
Because
gonna
you're just
dox
like,
you.
This is funny. This show is supposed to be funny. I'm trying to be funny.
this is funny. So let's talk about doctor-assisted suicide and someone who is paralyzed and they're going down and they're financially going down the toilet.
Yes. We have humor makes everything
we will
better.
find moments to add a little bit of humor to so maybe doxing you
It's
would be our
just-
humorous point.
It's just that Soder has a very different version of humor. I mean, by the way, you need to give him a lot of props on his Richard Spencer haircut.
Jeez.
Yeah, so he got the white supremacist haircut, fresh and faded up. So yeah,
Done by a Mexican, by the way.
next time I'm hoping that you shave everything, but about a half-inch track
Probably not. 'Cause
on the
there's a
mustache
little
Here's
right
the
below
humor.
the
Here's the
nose.
humor. So my stepson is half Latin, Latino, Hispanic, whatever you want, and I made a reference once to my friend who's a Mexican pastor, and he goes, "That's a racist statement." And I go, "What do you mean?" "Well, why are you calling him Mexican?" And I said, "Because he was born and raised in Mexico, and he lives up here now, and he went back to Mexico. He's a Mexican, and he's a pastor. He's a Mexican pastor." So when you said that you had someone who cut your hair that was Mexican, my first reaction was, "Well, that's racist." But wait a second, I know who you probably got your hair cut by. I think I know who it is. Am I right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing. We had a nice
yeah.
long
And
conversation.
he's
too.
Mexican.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, he is a U.S. citizen. Let's
Is
be
he
clear.
now? Okay.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
But he is of the Mexican persuasion.
Mexican American. Okay. Anyway. Okay, but
So
there was
so
your little
so
moment of humor to lighten it. So let me.
so well, actually no, because since I am a media personality, so when we are putting the title down for today, it is
Oh, you want me to edit it
Tim
now?
Miller says libertarians are always right and know everything. Therefore, I am running for office in 2020.
Sounds good to me. I will tell you, I actually don't get my words twisted as often as you might think, being an elected person, but they are twisted, and that's a pretty good one right there. That one will come back at some point in time. So, oh, that's a good one. Yeah, they'll splice out like those 5 words.
Okay, so
Is it true? So So you want me to answer? I don't know. Remember if there's a question, but I'll give you my side. The point
I want
counterpoint.
yeah,
I'll
I
give you
want
my
you to give me your
counterpoint.
side of the argument.
Okay. So I jotted notes because I'm still not sure what a boomer is, but the more you describe one, I think I'm approaching it. I
You
noticed
are.
that you don't like when people take notes. I think that's one of the.
Oh, I take notes too. I
Okay.
just in shorthand.
So here's let me first say one thing, and this ties in great to what I began with here. Okay, about we do talk about using specific examples to make a broader point, which is appropriate, and I'm good with that. But let me make a point about a specific story because sometimes we jump past that and get into the broader thing. That friend of yours you're talking about, his wife, his brothers, that family. We need to make sure that we truly mourn that is a terrible situation. Okay, and that is something that I never wish that I would have to go through. Okay, so the reason why that needs to be said is not because I'm a sympathetic, loving person, which I'd like to think that I am, but sometimes we need to recognize that there are stories that are terrible, and how do we react to them? Now we can talk about. Now he very specifically he has told you that he wished he could pass,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm more in that whole situation, including that he is at a point in his life where he wants to take his own or have someone take his life. However you want to say it, he wants to die. Is that an okay way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He says he lives in pain every single day.
Okay.
Every single moment of his life is pain.
So I don't want to. I'll get into my argument in a second, but I want to come to something that's real important to me that I've had to decide. Because as you know, the life movement, specifically having to do with abortion, but we'll expand it from there. But specifically having to do with abortion, that has become my life's mission to make that end. Okay, and so I have to address this issue fundamentally before God. Does life have value, no matter what that life is? Does human life have value? Before God, I believe the answer is yes. Okay? And when we talk about the person like your friend, when we talk about someone who has terminal, they have ALS or something like that, which is a terrible, horrible way to end, and they're in their final moments. Do I wish they could just die? My heart goes out to them, and I wish that they could. Okay? This gets to my point. Okay, and this is a very important point for me. Where do we draw the line? Okay. Now you could say that, well, certainly your friend's story is something that would qualify. Someone who is anyway, as they sort of say, would draw the line. But I wrote in a line earlier. There is a condition because when they brought forward doctor assisted suicide in the Minnesota Senate a couple of years ago, they brought it into committee and then it got pulled away. Okay, the way the bill was written, one of the because you have to draw the lines when you're writing law. You're drawing lines is what you're doing. You're saying you can do this, you can't do that. This means this. This doesn't mean that. And one of the things that they said is anyone that is in a situation where their life cannot be sustained without life-saving measures, then they should be able to take their own life. Now, when you talk about someone who is terminal or someone that's on like life support or things like that, makes sense, right? You know that someone came in and testified and they gave an example of what qualified under the way that bill was written, where if it requires life-saving measures, you can choose to take your own life. You know that diabetics will die without insulin. So what about the case where someone is 34 years old, has a case of depression, and they're diabetic? And we're going to say under that, the way that bill was written, they could say, I'm no longer going to take my insulin and this doctor can kill me. Do we want to go there? Do we want to go there?
That wouldn't be the doctor killing them. That would be them killing themselves.
No. They
because I also have
under that bill, a doctor could take their life.
But I also have a very good friend of mine. Okay, very good friend of mine who was 16 years old, and she was diabetic from the time that she was just in kindergarten. She had to take multiple shots daily. Severely diabetic. Spent a lot of time in the hospital. Had a very tough time regulating her blood sugar and things like that. And so she decided she just was going to stop taking her medicine. She died. The shockwaves that sent through her family was tough. I mean, it was very, very tough. And people talked about her, you know, that she was I was in high school at the time, that she was, you know, selfish. How could she do that? And my thought and my feeling on that was always that was her right. I'm not saying now, again, if I think I understand where you're coming from, of where do you draw the line is your question.
Well, let me give you another scenario. There's someone that actually I believe both of you know. I know one of you would know this person, if directly, if indirectly, if not directly. We'll call her Tammy H. You know who that is? What the H stands for?
I think I've heard the name Tammy.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway,
or Tammy.
I've
heard the name Tammy.
Last summer, I believe it was, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I forget of which part of her body, because when they did the PET scan, her body lit up like a Christmas tree. She had it everywhere, okay? And she was in pain. And basically the doctor said 2 to 6 weeks, maybe 7 if you're lucky. You're feeling good now. This is going to go downhill real quick. If we do life-saving measures, we could probably extend that to as much as 6 months, but we're talking about quality of life at that point, not quantity. Okay? Terrible, terrible situation. Okay? Because if we're going to talk about specific situations to make a point, this one has to count too. Okay? She was terminal. Her whole family. They were literally doing things to like wrap it up and say goodbye sort of thing, because it was non sequitur. She went to Colorado and tried something. They had the wherewithal where she could try some, I don't want to say radical things, but things that aren't in the norm. You know, it wasn't like radical in the sense like it was crazy stuff. It was just
Soda. It was weed.
No, it wasn't. Actually, it wasn't. But I think she was doing weed too. But again, that's palliative care.
The weed saved her life.
Yeah, you're probably making a point there. But anyway, yeah, you know where I'm going. She's alive right now, and not only that, you know what her last couple PET scans were? Cancer's gone. Now, again, you could say, well, that's one story, but there is a story where it was now in your friend who is paralyzed and having very diminished life. Okay, but here's I'm gonna make a point about one point. That I'll give you your chance.
But Tim,
your friend specifically, okay, to say that because their kid is wiping their rear end, and to say that they are a financial drag on their family and that diminishes life, really bothers me, because now we are defining what quality of life is, and that is a dangerous place to go
But
as a
we
society.
don't get to decide that as society. The individividual decides that. And
I disagree with you vehemently.
well,
okay, what are we talking about here? Are we
Because
talking?
here's the last note that
he's
I wrote.
talking about the government getting to decide what is quality of life. He's talking about death panels here.
No,
He's talking about the government being able to decide what
Do
is.
you believe that government has a role in society? And I'm serious. That's a serious question.
To be clear, are we talking about physician-assisted suicide?
Yes.
Right,
So
you both are talking about that,
because
right?
here's where I'm going. Because when you say government
We're-
gets to decide, that's a libertarian answer. Okay, I think government has a role for a civilized society. So I need to know if you agree with that. If you don't, then we have another discussion. That's fine.
I believe the government has a role,
But very limited.
Very limited.
Okay, so here's my problem. Okay, when you say government gets to decide, I'm not agreeing with that statement of what the role of government is when I talk. So if you hear me saying government has a right, has the power to decide, in effect, you could drive it to that conclusion. But what I view it as is if we are going to have an organized society, government has certain contingencies to determine that. My biggest issue in this in the U.S. right now is government is saying who has more value and who has less value on many platforms. I have a problem with that. You and I probably pretty much agree with that. But when we say that there is, even if it's my decision saying my life has different value than yours and it's my right to decide that, I totally disagree with that. All human life has equal value. And it's only a depraved, godless society that says that even if I'm deciding it, that my life has less value than yours. Because guess what? If I have a right to say that my life has less value than yours, I also have a right to say my life has more value than yours. Okay? Now, I can't necessarily act against you on that in the libertarian perfect utopia that you're talking about. But if I decide that I have less value, then that is marking me against other people. Okay? That drives society towards a depraved society because we jump to conclusions and we act in such ways that we have value. I'm telling you that before God, all men and women are created equal. All are created equal. Okay? So your friend who has a diminished life where their kids are wiping their rear end still has the exact same value as me. And that's the way I'm going to look at them. Okay? This isn't about.
It doesn't matter how you look at him. It doesn't matter how I look at him. He has an individual right to decide whether or not he wants to continue living.
That moves towards anarchy and a depraved society.
It doesn't. Why is it that every single time we start to talk about people making decisions for their own life, the Republicans or the Democrats are together on this? They always start talking about anarchy. You know what I've come to realize is whenever an elected official, Republican or Democrat, start talking about anarchy, what they're really saying is that means we lose our power.
No,
that's what I hear. When I hear an elected official tell me that, well, that's going to lead to anarchy, it really means that leads to us losing our jobs and you guys governing yourself.
Hugh, before I was elected, I said the exact same thing. When I was just John Q. Citizen, I said the exact same thing. It has nothing to do with me being elected.
When he was me, he was John
Yeah,
Q.
when I was John the
Q Citizen.
There you go. So, no, because I believe we had this discussion a few weeks ago, okay? That I believe here's a fundamental difference, okay? This is my definition. We can argue definitions about this too if you want. But my definition of the difference between a conservative libertarian and a progressive liberal walked into a bar, okay? Here's what I believe. As a conservative, how I define conservative is that I believe that there is a creator, okay? And that man is subject to that creator and government is subject to man. Okay, what a liberal would say is there's no God, and man is subject to government. Now what a libertarian says is that government is subject to man, and there's an ambivalence towards a creator. Because I believe there is a creator, and that's the model that I have. It is not my right to decide life. It is the creator's choice. Now I say the Christian God, the evangelical Christian God, I'm willing to step away from that and say that there's a creator of this universe. Okay? I'm willing to step away from my doctrine, my dogma or whatever, but I believe that there is a higher being. There's a benevolent higher being, and our life is subject to that higher being, not our own individual choices. Okay? So now, whoops, I'm getting all worked up. I'm knocking this down. So how government fits into that, we can argue that all day long. But when it comes to the value of life, no, it is not my right to decide what my life is of value. It's that creator to decide.
That's where I feel that mixing God and government is a very, very
in the U.S. Constitution. You cannot avoid it.
Well,
the U.S. Constitution presumes there's a creator.
I agree. I agree, and I'm not going to argue that. But what I'm saying is that is between that individual and their God. Each individual has to answer to God for themselves, and not you or me or the state or the federal government has the right to interfere with that decision. Because while you are talking about Tammy H, and that is a phenomenal story, and we prayed for them, and I'm glad that God still answers prayer. Believe that He does. While we prayed for them, and that's a modern day miracle. At the same time, we could have an argument about the fact that there are babies that have survived abortion. So therefore, what are you going to then advocate that abortion should be allowed? And if God wants that child to live, He's more than capable of allowing that child to live through the abortion. Because if we're going to have that argument that God gets to decide, and we're not going to, and that we're just going to allow God to we're going to either step out of the way and allow God to decide, or we are going to leave that up to the Creator, and the government is just going to be His mouthpiece. If we're going to do that, then we could just say, okay, we're going to allow abortions, and if God wants them to live, they'll live.
Do you believe that government is a sanctioned institution by the Creator?
Yes.
So do I.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In get into the Bible, Romans, it actually talks about the government does not bear the sword for nothing.
Right.
Right. So
right.
When people kind of fade into, well, government should do this. Usually, no individual should be doing that, but there is a role for government, if you will, even in the Bible. It is there to kill evil. Okay, that is one of the roles of government. But because government is an institution sanctioned by God, I do believe that God uses government. Not always. God is divine. Let Him do what He wants to do. Okay. But to say that there is a complete separation, there is God, there is individuals, there is government, I just can't agree with
that. And this has been such a lovey-dovey show up until now, or the shows that we've had up until this one.
Now we're getting into it.
Now we're actually getting into the rubber meeting the road, where I agree.
I have people in the church that tell me I need to leave my religion at the door. Well, I'm like, this isn't religion. This is talking about God, not about my relationship with Him. So there's a big difference.
So I'm gonna quote Punchy here. He says that where is that? Let's see here. Before I was elected, I thought the same way. Q. Sounds like Q's right, and Tim's trying to keep his job.
I will tell you, if I want to keep my job as a legislator, I wouldn't be on this show. This is.
He's trying to self-sabotage on 2020. He's committing political suicide. Assisted political suicide.
I don't think it's quite that bad either. But
you know what? This show is going to give you so many political points. You could run straight for U.S. Congress, and because of this show, you would win hands down in a landslide. So
I somehow think that's not the case.
I'm telling you right now, but you're going to have to give up some of those totalitarian, oppressive views that you hold if you're going to win over this audience.
Hey, another lighter moment, because Sutter gets all nervous when we aren't funny.
I get super nervous when people aren't laughing.
So one thing I have concluded, because if there's one thing this show and talking to you has had me, and I'm only 53, okay? So I'm not old man, but I seem to have shifted because I've had some physical problems which make me feel like an old man, okay? So I've had to start looking at my mortality, and I started looking at things in a broader history. I'm starting to watch historical things. I'm becoming the old guy, right? To get off my lawn, old guy more and more every
I
day.
look forward to the day you answer your
And
door with an
and
M1
and
Garand.
your generation is kind of moving up, is kind of asking the questions, pressing the issues, but you're going to be the ones in charge real soon, okay? My generation is going to be irrelevant real soon, okay? Yeah, thank goodness. But that's the point I'm making. And the one before me, the I'm right on the borderline, but the true, all the true boomers, the real ones. I was born in '65, so I'm just getting off of that. But the real boomers, I look back and they irritated me politically with all the stupidity that we're saying. We had a lot of commonality, us conservatives and Ronald Reagan. We all adored him, but we also made him out to who we wanted him to be. He probably wasn't anything that we've made him out to be. He was all of the above, right?
Oh yeah, he did outlaw guns in the Capitol.
That's right.
California.
So anyway, but
Well,
I'm looking at your
essentially,
generation and your
Trump is our Reagan, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
that was one of the perfect, well said. Because one of the things that I thought is politically, as you guys come into influence and we exit out of influence, which is coming soon, sooner than you think. By the way, when you're in charge, generation behind you is going to be on a show like this, ripping into you. Fair
I look
warning,
forward to
okay?
it. It's going to be funny.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that
Especially
I realized
if they're speaking up for liberty.
is that a lot of these terms that we talk about, liberal, conservative, progressive, libertarian, all these different things are defined within the realm. Because when I define conservative, I define it how I want. I don't think I'm neoconservative. I think I'm, what's the other one? I don't even talk about them anymore. But anyway, point being, okay, when you guys come in, you are actually the brand of quote unquote conservative that we're talking about, that we're going to see in this nation. Okay. And the progressives, the younger progressives, like I see in the Minnesota House, like an AOC, Ilhan Omar, for people that don't know the Minnesota House, that would be Ilhan Omar was in the Minnesota House. Okay. That is the future brand of progressivism. Okay. Can be your country,
and that's why. And
I don't like where it's going. But in
all jokes aside, that is why I am saying, and that is why people are seeing that the only chance that side has to win an election going forward is by importing votes. That is the only way, because our generation is simply saying this: we are going to back out of the way and realize that people are inherently good. There are some bad ones,
aren't.
but they are. People are inherent. We're going to have to get into that discussion another time.
Sinful. We're broken.
But we
free enterprise assumes greed.
No. There are people that that are greedy, but people are inherently good. I believe in the inherent goodness of people. Now, we can have the argument that people are bad, people are evil. God, that is a very I don't even know how you can live with that type of cynical worldview.
It's not cynical.
It is cynical worldview. It is
not.
a cynical worldview, because your totalitarianism tells you that your
totalitarianism.
It tells you that people are bad, and so therefore the government has to step in to keep them on the straight and narrow.
That isn't what I said.
But that's what the government types speak for. That's what big government is all
I've
about.
been in office for 5 years, and I'm a big government type.
You are. You're one of them. You used to be one of us. You said it yourself. You said it. It's on wax. You said, I used to be like you. I used to be a liberty guy.
I was never
I used to be a liberty guy.
Never.
But I got into office, and they
my job, right?
They wrote me in. Now I see that. Now I drank the Kool-Aid,
okay,
and I drank the Kool-Aid, and I realized
what I've done in the past 9 months in the Minnesota House. You've seen what I've done, right?
People
drinking the Kool-Aid.
People are good. People are good. Now, unfortunately, the media wants to focus on the bad. But I believe that there are more people, like you mentioned, we opened up the show talking about that shooting, and it was a terrible tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there are more people that would jump in the way to save lives than take lives. There are more people that would save lives than take lives. The problem that we have is that the camera is always going to be turned on the person doing the bad.
Actually, you're right, because that's the way it plays out. But really, the camera turns on what's provocative or what's the story, and doing something good generally doesn't have a compelling story associated with it. There are good stories that are certainly told, but you're absolutely right. It's the negative, it's the bad, it's because it's the contrary. It's the thing that goes against the grain that makes the news, because no one wants to watch something that just says you went to the store today and bought groceries and went home. No, they want to hear that you went to the store, bought groceries, and saw a shooting there. It's provocative, right? That's why the stories go that way. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it kind of takes a little bit of a different level, and we're never. And people are drawn to the things that they haven't seen before.
And I say so. Two things I want to respond to.
Okay.
Q promoting the idea. So this is Lay EG promoting the idea of freedom to take your life could lead to people pursuing someone to feel, or I'm sorry, pressuring someone to feel like they should.
Lay's right. Is that how you say it? Lay? L-A-E?
Lay EG.
We'll just say it
Lay
is.
EG is right.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that yes, it could be, but at the end of the day, I'm going to trust my fellow man that they are going to make the decision that is best for them. Best for them.
How often do people make the decision that's best for them?
And who's going to make a better decision for them?
No.
You? Government?
No.
Totalitarian?
And I agree with you. You should be free to make as many bad choices as you want.
Absolutely.
Up into and not including
life. So if we draw the line at life, where does the next generation draw the line?
I think life is a pretty good line to draw.
Career choices? You're not really smart enough to be a doctor, so you shouldn't go to med school. No, we're not going to allow you to do that.
That's never happened.
Oh, it has happened. It absolutely has happened. It's called communism. Yes, it has happened.
Yeah.
So where do we draw the line, though? If you're going to draw the line and say, well, okay,
said it, life.
But the only thing you truly own, the only thing you truly own is your life. The only thing you truly own is your life.
That's a false
and
statement
your time.
too.
What else do you own?
No, you don't own your life.
Yes, you do.
God of this universe owns your life.
No. My life, God gave me life, and I have a free will, and I have the right to do with that life whatever I choose to do with that life.
You would be dead tomorrow if God did not infuse life in you today.
I will not argue with you on that.
Now we're getting doctrinal here, I know.
But
that.
I get that.
By the way, I did grow up LCMS. Good guess. I grew up LCMS, and then my life went just off track after that. So that was a good catch earlier, by the way.
So
there's your humor again. Sorry.
I liked it.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what you subscribe to now. So.
Wait. LCMS. So please.
Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod.
Okay, that's okay. That's what.
True Faith, by the way.
No.
I thought
that's Baptist.
That Baptist. Is God
Why are you
no.
saying that you're not Baptist?
God no.
You married into the one true faith.
All religion is inherently
I am going
evil.
To your in-laws.
All religion.
We've already had conversations.
All religion is inherently evil.
I can't imagine that conversation.
Whether it be Lutheran,
we don't speak about it anymore.
Whether it be, I can't say this any louder. We're not going to get into talking about religion because religion is the enemy.
But there's a difference between religion
and relationship.
Whether or not that's true, but I won't go there. There's a difference between religion and whether or not, because in politics this does have to be discussed. There's a difference between religion, which is your understanding, your execution, if you will, of your understanding of a creator. But one of the things that when people say you can't bring your religion into this topic since I'm an elected official, that's probably a fair statement. But it doesn't mean that God's going to keep outside the door. God is God. I'm not. People just don't want to hear it all the time. And so if I'm saying something that comes across as a definition of God, they say keep your religion out. But you can't keep God out. I believe there's a creator.
So
the creator is way bigger than I am.
And so what are you pushing for theocracy then?
No.
I mean, because that's what it sounds like.
Theocracy is a man's interpretation. And that's still putting it on man again. That's man. I'm trying to make the delineation that there is a creator out there, okay? A benevolent creator who is active in our lives. That's an evangelical definition, but I'm going to say that.
At the end of
Engaged with our lives.
at the end of the
He
day,
didn't create us and then went and took a nap and went somewhere.
I agree with that, but he gave man a free will and let them choose what they will. He gave them the right and the wrong. He gave them.
Should I go ask your father-in-law if he gave man a free will?
Sure, go ahead.
That'll be an hour and a half discussion.
Well, it's your time, not mine.
But at the end of the day, it is not the government's job to legislate morality. We're talking.
I love that statement because what does that even mean?
It-
Every law, penal code is legislating morality. You can't kill someone. That's legislating morality.
Once again, you're proving my point. The only way for you to possibly be consistent is to be a libertarian. Because what does the libertarian say, Josh? The libertarian says,
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. You are free to do anything you want as long as you are not violating the rights in the life of others. As long as you are not violating the rights of others,
That
you are
sounds
free to
very
do whatever
Christian
you want.
to me, though. So.
It does sound Christian. It sounds extremely
Probably because
Christian.
it is.
It is Christian. That's why I'm saying the only way that you can possibly be consistent in all your ways. Jesus was a libertarian. I'm telling you, he was. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar, unto God which is God's. Period. So we keep that. So that in and of itself tells me that there is two roads that are going to that you are going to have to cross.
You know,
you're going to have government and you are going to have God, and those two are not always going to be the same. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, unto God which is God's. There are two different pots.
So I'm 53 years old. I think I've said that 6 times now. And I figured about age 75, I'm not going to care anymore.
And you're just
going to gives me 22 years. I'm just going to do my best to ride out the next 22 years. Okay. The problem in your perfect libertarian world is, again, it takes away, it neuters the creator in that formula that I said. Okay. Libertarian. Here's my issue. Okay. Here's how I'm going to punch the libertarians and the progressives right in between the eyes. Okay.
Now I'm going to say the Republicans and the progressives are two sides of the same coin, but go ahead.
I'll be Republicans and Democrats, progressives, conservatives, libertarians, whatever. We can. There's many colors of that rainbow.
Two sides.
Okay. I said rainbow, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
So
Happy June, everyone.
So, give me a second. Okay. Here is the problem with the direction that we're going as a society. Okay. The libertarians and the progressives have their own definitions of basically the same thing. Don't tell me what to do. I get to define what is and what isn't, what's right, what's wrong, what is reality, what's not reality, and stuff like that. That's a depraved society. Depraved societies have order.
You said the progressives?
Oh, progressives, absolutely. They say, who are you to tell me? This is where libertarians and progressives are the exact same. The huge difference between progressives and libertarians is a very huge one, but it's only one thing. Progressives believe the government is a tool to execute what they think is right and wrong. Libertarians say, government, get out of my way so that I can define what's right and wrong. But it is still relative truth. Libertarians have just as much relative truth as progressives do. It's what I think is right, therefore it's right. They just want government out of the way. The progressives want to use government as their weapon. They want to weaponize their reality with government. Libertarians say, let me carry my own weapons. Other than that, it's the same thing.
But that is a fundamental difference, Tim. That's a fundamental difference.
But they're both flawed.
How are they both?
There is absolute truth. If you and I can't agree that there's absolute truth, that's fine. But then it's very difficult for us to argue things about doctor-assisted suicide.
No, there are some absolute truths. I agree. There are some absolute truths. I will go there with you.
1 + 1 = 2.
Well, I mean, there are some absolute truths. I will give you that. What I am saying, though, is that progressives and libertarians are totally different. Because what is the solution? a progressive is going to tell you that the solution is we all want the same things at the end of the day for the most part. The difference is you believe that the government is going to give us those solutions.
No.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
No, that's a progressive's answer. I'm not a progressive.
Well, you sound pretty progressive right now. You do, because you're talking about death panels. You're talking about the government deciding who can quality of life.
You mean life panels?
Huh?
Life panels.
Life panel. I'm sorry. Life panel.
No. Actually, that's where we sort of That's where we sort of agree. Is that government should not decide who lives and who dies. Okay.
So the difference being, again, let me.
Which, by the way, death penalty. I think that there's sort of a different.
Not death penalty. Death panels.
No, I know, but I'm saying that some people, when I say that, people say, well, so you would support getting rid of the death penalty. You know what? For the sake of argument, let's just get rid of it because it's not even here in Minnesota anyway.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay. So
I do see a distinction there, but I won't even worry about that.
So the bottom line is that we all want pretty much the same things. The difference is, I believe that lies within the individual. I believe that the individual can decide for themselves, and they can come to the conclusion, and they can live with the consequences of those actions. That each person that everything has consequences, and you have to live with the consequences of those actions. What the progressive says, and what it sounds like a lot of Republicans do. I'm not speaking for you specifically. Anything I throw at you.
Republicans just want to keep their job.
Well, that's what it sounds like. So we just want to get reelected, okay? I'm just here.
What my life is like in St. Paul, you'd say you've lost your mind to think you want to keep doing this just for like some intrinsic value.
You're a masochist.
Man.
But okay, but a libertarian is going to say that we have the right to choose for ourselves. We want the government to get out of our way. We want to have a free market system. We want the government to get out of our way so that we can make the decisions for our own future. And we will live. We are willing to live with whatever consequences come our way as a result of that. The Republicans say, wait, we have to protect you from yourself because people are inherently greedy. And we understand that you might make a bad decision. If you make a bad decision, there has to be some type of windfall. And that windfall, that answer is the government. And it's not. It is not the government. Because think about it. Since the government has gotten involved, things have progressively gotten worse. Just about everything the government has ingrained itself into, things have not gotten better all the time. In fact, I could argue that they've gotten worse in a lot of instances.
But you're arguing with a person that agrees with you the government doesn't make things better.
See, once again,
this is
if you're going to be consistent, Tim, you're going to have to take that L.
And you're talking German. The problem is pretty much what you're saying in the examples you're giving, I don't disagree with. But there are things where you have to have, that's why I say, we can have an argument as to what the role of government is, but I want to make sure that you do believe that there is a role. And the definition of as long as it doesn't hurt someone else, that's the role of government, is just simplistic. Okay? It doesn't mean that it automatically becomes extrapolated into thousands times more, because our government is way over. You and I will agree that our government is way, way over the border, okay, of where it should be.
Mr. Scott, are you saying that grace is irresistible? I'm really, really curious about this. I really don't like getting into religion here.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree with what he's saying.
Of course you do.
I grew up LCMS.
Of course you do. But are you saying that grace is irresistible? Are you saying that God's grace and God's calling and God's pulling of you is something you cannot resist? Please answer. I'm very, very curious to see where you fall on that. Again, you don't have to. Oh, wow, he's quick. Ergo, we will always choose inherently evil choices without grace.
That's getting deep. That's getting deep into doctrine, but I know where he's going. So, Mr. Scott J87, I fundamentally agree with what you're saying.
I feel I know where he's going, but I do not agree with that. For example, I have a grandfather who I'm not sure where his soul lies today. In fact, I would tend to say that he's probably. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to leave that alone.
Right.
I'm not sure where his soul is today, but he was a very, very, very moral man. but I think he was lost as a goose in a snowstorm, to be honest with you. But so he was not religious. He was not a Christian of any kind, but very, very moral. Okay. And I believe there are atheists, for example, out there, very moral people. They do not believe in God, but they do believe in doing right by others. So I'm not gonna go there with people and say that outside of a relationship with God, without being a Christian or without that faith, that that people are inherently evil. I just I cannot buy into that. I know a lot of people who are atheists who are inherently moral people. They have strong moral values. Now, again, we could have an argument about what is the ultimate authority then? What is morality? Because outside of the 10 Commandments, what is right and what is wrong? Who set the role in motion of what was right and what was wrong? Did man just decide one day that stealing was bad? Or was there a ultimate rule maker that decided that stealing was bad? We could have that argument. I listen to my kids all the time where my daughter will run upstairs and say, clean up your room. And my son will say, who says? Dad says. Well, when there's an authority behind the order, it carries a lot more weight. The problem is that when you seek to remove an authority figure from the order, unfortunately, those what you say doesn't carry a whole lot of weight. So do you understand what I'm saying here? So as the further we try to remove God from our society, I think that we get into these situations where there is no more absolute truth anymore, right? And your truth becomes your truth, my truth becomes my truth, and even though they might be totally immoral and totally separate, how can I force my truth on you because my truth is no more important than your truth?
And that is more the liberal progressive bent.
But none of us sitting here are liberal progressives. So
you just already called me one.
Well, but you guys are kind of in the same boat. I mean, in a lot of ways,
you're in the same mode with them.
But
you
I
just
think
don't like that.
It's just everybody here.
My libertarian state representative friend Jeremy, one of his best friends is one of the most liberal Democrats, and it's because they communicate, they get each other.
Everybody in
he
here.
wouldn't call her his friend, but they are.
But well, see. So I tell you, man, this guy is such big government. He could decide for me who my friends are.
I wrote a bill. I wrote a bill. Everyone's gonna have 5 friends. One of them has to be me.
So only 4.
So we're back to our original statement.
What's funny is we've only barely touched the main subject.
We have barely touched the main subject. We're over an hour into this, and bottom line is, once again, where I stand is I feel that let me back away. I feel that individuals have the right to choose what they do with their own lives.
Which, by the way, here's going back to what I said about 10 minutes ago. Number one, I disagree with you vehemently. Number two, you're going to probably get that as soon as your generation takes over power and I lose mine. It's coming.
Get what?
Doctor-assisted suicide is coming.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming. Unless things... Now, how that ties into abortion ending, I have no clue how, because I see them as one and the same. So maybe that isn't going to be it, but I believe that all of it... Now, when I say a depraved society, when I say depraved society, I'm not saying I'm a grumpy old man. We're like, back in my day when we were all virtuous, God-fearing people,
it's
because
coming.
We've been depraved.
I find that a lie.
We find that. That's what I'm saying. There is depravity in the world for many, many years. I think some of this is more cyclical than it is definitive.
But it's interesting that the younger generations get in, your generation has been in power for what, 20 years now, almost 30 years now, right?
Not that long, but sure.
Almost
20 years.
Almost. But I mean, because I would put you in the same, because you're 53. Sorry, I just want to hear you say it again.
No, you start
So-
getting into a position of influence as you get into your 30s. You
Okay,
talk a lot
so-
before that,
so-
but when you get into your 30s, you start seeing things.
Eh,
40 is when you really 40 years old. I don't know what it is about that age, but at 40, people start listening to you,
Right.
even if you were saying it before.
Because I talk a lot, but no one listens to me.
Right, but it
and now
happens.
I
At
know
age
that I gotta
40,
wait.
suddenly
I gotta
no one
wait a
listens
few
to you.
more years.
Maybe that was our problem.
That was our problem.
So
We
at
should have
about-
started this when we got turned 40.
At about age 40 is when you start.
But it's interesting to
true
me that
influence.
my generation is starting to really get into politics and really starting to get into government. And now we're
like I
actually
did in my
starting to
late
see
20s and
traction
30s. Yeah.
with things like the heartbeat bill, right? Because unfortunately, that boomer generation just turned over everything to the government.
Yeah, and that's my one hope is that your generation that they are more pro-life than my generation and the one before me, certainly before me. They were really bad on it. So that's my one hope on that. I think it's going to take civil war, but that's another discussion for another.
We don't
show.
have the balls for it. Soder and I had that discussion the other day. We don't have the balls for it. We don't have the stomach for it.
It's coming.
Huh?
It's coming.
It's not coming. It's not coming because
That's
because
not what I said.
no, I said it.
Oh,
I
you
said it.
Okay. Well, you
I
said
said
we,
it.
Okay.
We had a discussion, and Soder gets into talking about repeal and replacing, essentially repeal and replacing Social Security.
Right.
And I said, why is it that you guys always want to replace everything, even though it's a bad idea to start with? Why do we continue to give more and more of our liberties up in hopes of replacing it with something that's just as intrusive, but it's our idea instead?
Yeah, I don't, with Social Security, I actually agree with you, except for the reality that you have to transition out of some things because you made promises to people. You can't exit those promises. So how do you transition?
I understand
That's all.
that. I understand that.
So my example would be is get rid of Social Security, transition it into like my generation. I said this. I said it 40 years old when I was 40 because that's when they were getting, what are we gonna do with Social Security? Still there, but that's when it was a big topic. I said, listen, you made promises to a generation that you have to keep. My generation at age 40, I'm willing to shift out of it because I have time. And that promise I don't think is going to be there for me anyway. So
It definitely won't be there for me.
right. So I have so with Social Security I don't disagree with you with that. If you hear repeal and replace, that was like with Obamacare. My only thing that I said is I got into the weeds of being one of those government people. Okay, is that Obamacare isn't page 20 through 654 and you tear it out of the book and keep going. It's enmeshed into things. There is no such thing as getting rid of it. It doesn't exist. And so you're going to have to, in effect, fill in something. Now, fill in something is going to be disagreed upon of what that looks like. Okay. That was the only place where I heard repeal and replace where I actually learned. I don't think you can just repeal and walk away.
Yeah.
Because people will die.
Again,
Not people are dying. I mean, people will die.
once again, that's the reason why I can sit here and I can say affirmatively there will not be any civil war. There will not be a revolution because revolution began in America for far less intrusive governmental overreaches than what we're seeing today. Our government is far more totalitarian than what King George was.
So I don't know what civil war looks like because when we
Well,
say civil war,
I'm
we
going
think
back
of
even
North versus
I'm
South.
going back even further than Civil War. I'm going back to the Revolutionary War.
I know, but I'm one of those people that say I think we're headed for a civil war. I don't see the final steps, how exactly they look, but I'm seeing all the progression there, up to and including when we circle this all the way back to the abortion debate. We now have states that are passing zero abortion, and we have states like Minnesota where they're filing lawsuits now, or they filed a lawsuit that says basically you can do whenever you damn well please. Illinois just passed a law on that.
You know
When you start making those decisions, you're going to have people starting to make their decisions.
But guess what I can do? I can leave Minnesota. Isn't that what that's where our government was meant to work,
Yes,
right?
but look at
States have rights. States
but-
should have rights.
Yeah, guess what happened? the Missouri Compromise was going to fix all that with slavery, and the Missouri Compromise actually propelled and catapulted us into a civil war.
Well, the Civil War.
The Civil War was not. It always was about slavery, but they said it wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights
Correct.
and preserving the Union.
Correct.
So what's going to happen is when we have a civil war, it's not going to be over abortion per se. It is going to be something that arises up that goes to the core of who we are as a society. I think we start having economic collapse, okay, or I have you're going to start hearing more and more about this in the next couple of years. China is heading headlong into, this is a bad comparison, but it's the only comparison. Japan went into war with the West in World War II more because they had to, okay? I mean, they wanted to in a way, but they had to because we stopped oil, we froze them from getting oil and they needed it. So that's why they attacked Pearl Harbor. China is in a position to where they are facing collapse because of their stupid no girls, +1, all these different things. They have a huge population issue to where they're having economic meltdown that's happening. They're propping it up with a Ponzi scheme of loans, but China's going to collapse, and they cannot sustain.
You know, Ponzi scheme, kind of like Social Security.
Yes.
Okay, right,
yeah.
right.
So exactly like that. But China is facing, so you're starting to see some of the early symptoms of, like, with Iraq. By the way, no one seems to be talking about the fact that Iraq torpedoed a couple of tankers. I don't know why Iran. Oh, did I say Iraq? I mean Iran.
Yeah.
Iran torpedoed a couple tankers, and everyone's like, it's like page 4.
I thought that was a hurricane.
No, they showed pictures. Everyone's saying it was torpedoes and it was Iran. So, but now what's the first reaction from the world stage of China? They're building relationships with Iran. Okay? They're forming their alliances and stuff like that. You watch. China is going to become, within the decade, we'll probably be at war with China. If that happens, okay, and people start truly, Americans don't feel threatened in their lives right now. They might feel a little pressure here and there, but they don't feel threatened. When they feel threatened, they're going to start calling out for things that are going to be both maybe some irrational, and our society is going to have to. I don't know how these pieces fit, but it's coming, and I am seeing people getting more and more emboldened to act out against someone that disagrees with them. If there is someone, getting back to this abortion issue, I'm very outspoken pro-life. I have my bills on social media and stuff like that. If you are saying this is about women's rights, okay, and I'm saying it's about the life of the child, we're in disagreement, okay? But we're doing nothing that I am affecting change in that person other than perceived, and they're doing nothing to affect change in me other than perceived. Meaning there's a lawsuit coming where I write a bill, but none of it's actually executing. I actually had a woman that posted that she wants to hold me down and tattoo on my forehead misogynist. That's a very provocative act. Not that she's going to find me and do it, but people are saying stuff like that. She wants to affect harm on me, okay? I've had other things. I had one person one time that I think he said he wanted me and my wife to get beat up with the jawbone of an ass. It was sort of a biblical reference. People start saying that, and they eventually do it, okay? We are moving in the direction where people want to enact violence on someone because of the way that they think. That's the road. That's a dangerous road.
Sure.
Anyway, I want to my too long of a rant and give you a chance to say anything, and it's your show, so I'll shut up now.
No, that's why we have you come on.
Hey, by the way, got 6 minutes. Not that there's an official cutoff, but
you gotta get going.
See, because I'm a. I was going to say something real sarcastic, but there's not enough time for it. Never mind. Yes, I should probably get going pretty soon. I was going to say something riddled with sarcasm, and I thought, no, it was
you
way
have
too
somewhere you
uncomfortable.
need to be tonight. You got Sunday service to get
because okay, I'll say it. Then we'll just
LCMS, they don't have
no, they don't.
They don't have Sunday service.
Oh,
No.
He said he's not now.
Oh.
No, I do not have Sunday evening service. No, I was going to say because I'm a Christian man and I love my family, I want to go back to them, not like you godless libertarians that just want to do things for yourself.
Ouch. That hurt.
That was a joke. That was sarcasm, okay?
Didn't feel like
these
sarcasm.
These two men here very much love their families and are really good men.
Don't put words in my mouth.
You love your family. Wait, you don't have kids though. Do you? You have kids?
He has a
dog?
he has a herd
I have
of
a
children.
Wither river full of children.
How many?
A lot.
Hey,
Let's not put a number on
Hey,
it.
Oh, we're not, is that doxing if I say
yeah,
how many?
It could be, yeah.
let's just say a slew of them.
Greater than the 2.3 average.
Yes,
that is,
Yes.
he is.
I'm making up for people.
He is helping me. He is helping me out. Can I borrow one of your kids to make my quota?
No, you
Oh.
got to do your own.
See,
Yeah,
I've got 7, but it's all a we're a mishmash.
Well, I have 4, so I all jokes aside, I have fulfilled my quota.
I have
So yeah,
2 biological children, 1 adopted, and then 4 inherited through marriage.
there you go. So you have fulfilled your
7 that called me dad in some
So-
form or fashion.
So does that.
What?
I want to say it. I want to say it real bad.
say it.
Hey, go ahead.
Does that make you a cuck?
Oh wow,
How?
wow, yeah.
How?
Oh god.
Do you know the definition of that word?
Why do I give him?
Why do you give me a mic?
Cut his mic off.
I don't
Jesus.
even know the connection there.
Another man's children.
Yes, let's just move. Why? Hey, that had nothing to do with me. Please come back to the show. Please come back to the show.
He doesn't even know the definition of the word.
He doesn't.
No one does.
Yeah. It's
Like-
it's based on a bird, right? You
Yeah,
know that,
I know
right?
what cuck is.
Somebody, hey, and we have a lot of people out here in our
I go,
chat.
I actually
who
agree
are-
with you. You and I are fighting, but at least we're fighting intelligently. He throws in his
Right. Wow.
Hey, and I was
So-
going to have
Are you
your
allowed
back.
to say dumbass on this?
And if I-
show?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely,
Yes.
100%. This is HBO.
And I was going to have your back about the whole, government assisted suicide stuff too. I just
But-
couldn't get where.
So this is your audience. This is who you're on the same side with.
I know.
Good luck with that.
Suddenly I need to rethink my.
I'm telling you, the only way for you to be consistent is to become a libertarian. So
I must
so
be a totalitarian.
your lay EG, people need to be less radical. We need to have more open dialogue and open mind. It's the only way we can understand each other. I do agree
I agree with that too.
with that as well. I do agree with that. And so that's the reason why we exist, honestly, lay EG. I don't agree with quite a few things that we talked about today. But what you'll find is the more that we talk and the more that we visit, the more common ground that we find. And I believe that there are a lot of people, even I bet I would venture to say that there are some people that you've visited with that are pretty radical in the in especially in Minnesota State House.
Amazingly, in Minnesota, we have some real radicals.
Oh, I know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I would say that even some of those people, when you actually sit down and have a discussion, there are some things you agree with. Would that be fair to say? Not
Yes,
everything.
yes. The only rules that you have to have in that is integrity and respect.
Sure.
So those are the only 2 things, because you have when people get really radical, they also tend to be what we call in safe seats, so they become emboldened, and so they stop listening. But
Sure.
yes, fundamentally, you can have some
Sure.
people that a guy that I have a really good relationship with, when he ran for Minneapolis mayor, he talked about taking the guns out of the hands of the police officers. Pretty radical position as far as I'm concerned, and I consider him, I don't know, as a close friend, but we certainly have respect with each other.
Sure.
I can tell you I politically disagree with that statement.
We should talk about that. We should talk about that. So, but we should talk about that. I could go along with that. I could go along with that. I could.
As long as I can own any gun, they can.
Right. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
can't own any guns, they can't own.
There you go. See, we had to tread lightly. I find myself almost agreeing with Soder. Jeez. Okay. But hey, guys, but once again, this has been the funnest 2 hours on the interwebs. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining in the chat. Always great to see what your conversation and what your answers are. Again, we don't have to agree with everything. I'm never going to disrespect anyone who disagrees with anything that we have to say here. In fact, I welcome it. I will always read or attempt to read chats that are different viewpoint than ours, solely because, guys, it's so important for us to hear from the other side and to have respectful dialogue. That's the only way any of us learn and grow as people. But thank you guys so much for joining us on Out of the Darkness. If you are not subscribed to our show, please push that little subscribe button. Make sure you like the video and help us continue to grow so we can get more content out there. And have a great Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all of you guys out there. You know what? And a special happy Father's Day to those fathers out there who wanted to be fathers, would like to be fathers, but for reasons beyond your control, were unable to be. Whether that, well, whoever was responsible for that decision. So I know there are a lot of fathers out there that are that way. And may you be reunited one day with your unborn children. So thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. Have a great night. And we will see you guys next week.